Yeah, and you know what we're discussing today, Don, with Marvin Goldstein, the president of ASHI, is we're discussing the importance of a home inspector and the importance of an ASHI certified home inspector. And what we're going to talk about next a little bit is, you know, what kind of things get discovered in home inspections? Because, you know, he briefly touched on a roof leak. Maybe you and I could detect a roof leak, or maybe the seller was willing to, say, for example, disclose a roof leak. But Marvin, what kind of things can you find that are, say, a little more obscure?
Well, once I found a 100-ounce silver bar in an attic that apparently a seller had died and not notified anybody about. That's rather obscure, I would think. But that's not what a home buyer is usually looking for. Well, you know, it wouldn't be bad to have a 100-ounce silver bar these days with the price of silver the way it is.
Yeah, no doubt.
But more likely leaky roofs, water intrusion problems. Before the inspector even goes into the house, they're going to look at the grading around the house to see if the soil slopes towards the house.
Oh.
Because if the soil slopes towards the house, then when you have heavy rain, it's going to bring water towards the house and cause water problems.
Actually, we had that, Marvin, on one of our homes for Jimmy and Marcia.
That's right.
They actually didn't buy the home, and they fell in love with the home, but the inspector came out and found exactly what you're talking about and how it's going to be an issue and how much it's going to cost to rectify. And otherwise, they would have purchased a home, and maybe Jimmy and Marcia would have gotten a divorce.
Well, I don't know about a divorce, but it would have been about $16,000 if I remember correctly.
It was.
Yeah, to get that remediation done, and it all worked out for the best. They found a better home.
And sometimes, though, the problem can be taken care of without spending that $16,000. I remember asking a waterproofing contractor once, I said, when do you do your inspection when you're called out for a wet basement problem? And he said, what inspection? We might find out it's just a grading problem, and all they got to do is change the grade of the soil, and they won't have a wet basement problem, and then we give up a $16,000 job. So the inspector can really help everybody, because sometimes it doesn't take a $16,000 waterproofing job. Sometimes it's just a matter of $1,000 or so to build up the soil against the base, the walls, the exterior walls of the house, so it grades away from the house and doesn't bring water towards the house. So that's why a professional inspector can really help everybody.
No, that's really good stuff. And if you just tuned in, getting some pearls of wisdom from Marvin Goldstein, president of the American Society of Home Inspectors. And what I loved hearing about that, Marvin, is what people don't realize is you just talked about how an inspector, meaning using a real professional. If you just get any inspector, you don't know what associations they may have with other contractors and so forth, potentially giving them work in business to where a professional, a true professional that goes under your gold standards at ASHI will do the right thing. Just like we do at Cherry Creek Mortgage, we always do the right thing for our clients. We don't ever step out of bounds to just make a buck. And I know you guys, you especially since 1976, Marvin, have been setting those standards to make sure it's done correctly.
Right. Our code of ethics prohibits our inspectors for recommending contractors to do the work or to do the work themselves. And if it's ever found out that any of our inspectors are doing things like that, then they will be removed from the ASHI list. So, yes, it's very important not to have that conflict of interest, because if you call a contractor who specializes in a certain area, it's amazing how often they find that you need new windows if it's a window contractor, or you need waterproofing if it's a waterproofing contractor or whatever. Whereas if you call a third-party professional like an ASHI inspector, they're going to call the shots as they see them, not because they have any vested interest in the result.
Very key stuff.
Yeah, well, I want to tell a small story. You know, when I was, as a former real estate agent, and in the past I've always worked with Bob Geyer, we went out to a property and we looked at a electrical panel. I would have never picked up on, nor would the buyer have picked up on, the fact that they're on recall. How would I ever know that if I wasn't in your industry?
Right. A lot of the Federal Pacific panels, they basically lied about the certification of how those panels were built, and they literally, millions of them have been recalled, and of course the company went bankrupt as a result.
But most important, at the end of the day, when someone's buying a home, you know, sometimes they want to save $350, $400, $500 on a home inspection. They could actually be risking their lives if they bought a home that had one of those faulty fuses, possibly, right?
Yeah, the house, while they're sleeping, the wiring in the circuit breaker panel box could catch fire and cause the house to catch fire, and perhaps they would never wake up. And there are many hazards, electrical, plumbing, structural. I'll never forget one house I inspected. It was a real bargain. It was selling for like $15,000, believe it or not. And I took one look at the house before I even went into the house, and I said, that house isn't safe to even walk into, let alone, buy. But she said, it's such a bargain. I said, well, it's a bargain only if you're willing to tear it down and start all over again.
Wow. So they're basically buying a lot.
That's all that. Yeah, it was in a bad neighborhood, and it was a row house, and they were just buying a lot. And hey, maybe the price was a good price, but you got to be aware that you got to pay the money to tear it down first and start all over.
Now, very, very good stuff. I love hearing your stories. And if you're wondering whose stories we're hearing from and the great information we're hearing from, is Marvin Goldstein, President of American Society of Home Inspectors, ASHI. And he's been the president and founder, and we're talking since 1976. This guy is the guy. He's the man who helps bring together now over 5,000 members nationwide to make sure you're safe and sound. You should be very proud of that. I mean, I know how proud we are helping our clients out with home financing, give them the right direction, and that's why they come back. And you have to be super proud about you putting together something that's going to help protect families.
Well, I'm proud of it, but it's important to listen to your inspector too. I'll never forget a lawyer I inspected a property for once, and I said, this heating system is going to go any day now. It's on its last legs, and you really need to pay attention to that. And 6 months later, in the middle of the heating season, he called me and said, Marv, I got a problem. I said, what's that? My heating system just failed. I said, yeah, I told you about that. He said, yeah, but I didn't worry about it because I figured if I knew about it, I didn't have to worry about it. Well, you need to be prepared for these things, and if you don't want to negotiate for a lower selling price or problems taken care of that you weren't aware of, at least put some money aside so that when it goes, you're ready.
See, that's good stuff, because what's nice is what you're saying, Marvin, is a lot of times, since you guys are unbiased, there's a big difference. Because you're unbiased, you're giving solid opinions on what you think they should do to protect their home or their family. And just like that, you were suggesting, hey, you might want to get this fixed, you might get this repaired. But you guys look at so much more around the house, because a lot of people just think that you only look at a couple of details. You look for roof leaks. That's the main one everybody thinks they're looking for. But like we were talking about just recently is electrical. And I'm sure there's plumbing, and I'm sure there's your air conditioning, and like you said, heater. I mean, there's so much more, you guys. Can you give us just a brief description of some of these things you look at that others probably don't know you guys go in that much detail when you do a home inspection?
Oh, yeah, and mold and water intrusion problems and rot and, the ASHI standards of practice are very comprehensive, and every ASHI inspector has to have done at least 250 inspections in accordance with the standards of practice and code of ethics of the American Society of Home Inspectors that are peer-reviewed and approved before they can call themselves an ASHI certified inspector, and also pass our very difficult exam.
So 250 inspections, that sounds like an awful lot. It sounds like it takes a couple of years to be certified.
Yeah, probably does for most people, because you have to have done those 250 inspections and pass the written examinations, which they are tough. They're psychometrically valid exams, which means they really test your knowledge, and about half the people that take those exams don't pass them, quite frankly.
Thanks for clarifying psychometrically, though.
Big word.
Yeah.
But it means if you can answer those questions, you really understand whether you're talking about electrical problems or plumbing problems, heating problems, roofing problems, structural problems. You really understand what you're talking about.
So, Marvin, tell me real quick, once again, what's the website that we can go to find an ASHI certified inspector? And what if I want to become an ASHI certified inspector and I'm out doing inspections and I'm not an ASHI certified inspector? Can I do that on the website as well?
Hey, absolutely. Same answer to both questions, www.ashi.org, ASHI.org. You can find an inspector there for a home buyer, for a home seller, and over 40 specialty inspections like radon, termite, mold, energy inspections, infrared inspections, stucco inspections. There are a lot of specialty inspectors that you could find at ASHI.org as well. And if you want to be an inspector, you can go to ASHI.org to find out how to become an inspector and to apply to start at the associate level, not at the certified level, obviously. And you can start that process. We have something called the ASHI School, where there is a college-accredited, 5 credits, college-accredited program for that takes two weeks to go through the ASHI School to learn the schoolroom stuff to become an inspector. But you still have to do the 250 to be ASHI certified.
Very good stuff, Marvin. Thank you very much. If you just tuned in, we're unfortunately having to say goodbye to Marvin Goldstein, President of the American Society of Home Inspectors. Thanks for sharing with us great information today, Marvin.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
We'll definitely have you back and have a great seminar tonight. And thanks again for sharing with us, Marvin.
Look forward to returning.
All right.